Today we're going to be showing you how to put in a new steering servo in the Traxxas trx4. This happens to be the K10 Trail Edition 4x4. So let's get started. We're going to be putting in this Savix completely waterproof submergible 7.4 volt steering servo, and let me bring you in for a closer look. Alright, so first we're going to start with removing the body. And so we've got a few tools that we're using here. It's going to be a 2.5 millimeter and a 2 millimeter. We're going to remove this front battery tray. It's a 2.5. Alright, so once you've got that out of the way, it's fairly simple on the non-lifted versions, but this one happens to be the one with the factory lift kit on it, so the servo mounts a little different. But while we're up here on the top of the truck, we are also going to take the 2 millimeter, and we're coming over to the receiver box, so we're going to remove the 5 bolts. All the way back, just like we did when we did the ESC swap. And this wire, of course, is going to be run up underneath everything and make it kind of a pain. Let me try to get out of the way so you can still see. So it happens to be this wire here, and luckily there's plenty of extra inside, so we can come back out here and get it around. And we will come over to the proper channel that it's in, give it a tug, pull this wire back out with the connector, fish it out through all the rest of the wires, bring this back around, and now we're going to turn the truck over and show you what I was telling you with it being a little bit more difficult on the lifted versions. So what I found is easiest is we're just going to pull the shocks, which actually on this one we've got to pull them from the top. So you've got your 2 screws here, which is a 2 mil. Pull the shock out so that we can get them to drop, and we'll pull the upper control arm, and that front axle will just kind of fall out of the way to make it easier on this particular model or any of the TRX4s with the long arm lift kit installed. So lift up, pop the shock out, get it out of the way. Same with this one. Flip the truck back over. So now you've got those out of the way. You can get them to cooperate here. Just compress it and get it flipped back. And then you've got this upper control arm, which is probably easier this way. We're going to pull this wheel off to make it a little bit easier. It's just a 7 mil socket. Back the lug nut screw off. These are the SSD bronze wheels with the Traxxas factory tires on them. If you want to know how to mount beadlock wheels, I'll leave a link in the description below on the video on how we're doing those. So back to the servo, come in here and pull this upper control arm mount. Take the bolt out of it. Then that's going to come loose, and you've got this panhard mount right here in the front. Pop that loose, and you've got the bolt for the servo horn which it's good to hold on to the horn so you don't go twisting the servo and messing it up. So we're going to pull that screw out, and this axle will get out of the way for the most part. Hell, let's just take this lower control arm off to make it a little bit easier. So the lower control arm houses the shock. It's all put together on one piece. So now we've got this for the most part out of the way. We're going to come back in with the 2.5. You've got 4 screws here. Remember guys, I always like to use the hand tools. Not a fan of using the drill because I'm not trying to strip out any of these screws. They are kind of temperamental, softer metal. And if you strip one out, they're quite a task to get out. You have to extract it and everything. It's not fun, especially when you get to some of the smaller 1.5 mil. So we've got all the screws out for the servo, and the front drive shaft sleeve slid out. Now what we're going to do is come in here and pull this servo up, pull it out. Fairly simple. The Savix didn't come with a new servo horn, so we're going to reuse the old one and hope that it's a 25 tooth. So you've just got a 2 mil. Come in here and break it loose. Nice and tight. I like to see the use of Loctite on metal on metal. And then you just give this thing a wiggle. Pops right off. Got your servo horn. Set this one to the side. Now we're going to open up this Savix. What is this one? This is the 22905G. Pop this out of the box. You've got some additional adapters for servo mounting. They give you some nice little stickers you can add to your rig if you want to. I like the fact that it comes with a nice long lead on it. This is the actual servo here. If you see here, it says submarine across here, which we love all the submarine stuff. So now you're just going to fish the wire back down in the hole, pull it out of the way so this will go in. Always remember the orientation of the servo horn in itself. So this one's going back in this way. Slides right down in, locks around the pins that help you with setting it all back in the proper orientation. Then we're going to put these 4 screws back in, 2.5 mil. Remember, don't over tighten screws that are going into plastic because you don't want to be stripping out the plastic threads. That's never a good time. So let's see, it's a little dark. Pop this one in here. Alright, so it looks like I've got this one adjusted too far over. So I'm going to back this out, slide it down. Now we're not going to put the servo horn back on it quite yet because we're going to get this thing powered up and get the servo centered. So then we're just going to rerun this wire back through the way the factory wire did. Tuck it back in. Kind of let her limp along here. And then we are coming over down. I don't know if you can see that or not. And then we are coming back into this receiver box. If you look on the back of the plugs here, I don't know if the trackless one shows it, no. Typically the aftermarket ones will tell you which one's positive and negative, and on the receiver it will also tell you which ones are positive and negative. So you want to make sure you plug them in properly. So right here we've got negative on this side, negative on that side on the receiver. Come in, plug it in, make sure it's nice and tight. You're going to, whoops, grab a trx4 battery here. Alright, so now that we've got the battery plugged in, we're going to grab the transmitter, turn it on. Turn on the ESC. Give it a couple turns, let it center itself back out. Then what we are going to do is flip this back over. Grab the drive shaft piece that slid out. Pop these screws back, or the shocks back down. So since this sleeve fell out of the drive shaft, we're going to put it back in. And if you look on this sleeve itself here that this insert goes into, not this sleeve, there's a line on it which indicates center. And then what you want to do is line that up with the line on the transmission sleeve, so you'll see the two lines lining up. Then what we're going to do is we're going to come back through here, grab this panhard bar, which is, if you're familiar with real vehicles and everything, this is equivalent to a track bar, I believe. I don't know
It is.
if it's just changed names because of its an RC car, or if there's such thing as a panhard bar. I'll have to talk to my buddy. He's a mechanic. He pretty much tends to know all that fancy stuff. I just know how to break things and take it to him when it needs to be fixed. So we got the panhard bar back in. We've got this upper control arm that we are going to slide back in. Alright guys, sorry, the camera decided that the battery wanted to die, so before the camera died I realized I had put this servo in backwards. So right now, with the truck being upside down, the ESC is on this side, and that's the side that your splines need to be on for your servo horn. So I've got that flipped around now. Gonna look at getting this thing put back together. So we're going to take this panhard bar and your 2mm screw and slide it back in. Actually no, we're not, because we got to get that servo horn on. So what I'm gonna do is come in here and put this screw in and just get it started so I can get a better judgment for when it's going to be centered, because you don't want to have to try to put this on and then go through the transmitter to try to center it up and end up losing some steering out of it. So what we're going to do is get my big fingers in here, try to, we could get this on if I put this on the right way. Remember which way the splines are on these servo horns, because you've got splines here but not on this side. That's where your screw goes. So when you're working upside down, it's a little bit harder, it's a little confusing, but I'd like to say you'll get used to it. Maybe you will, but I don't, because I'm not used to working upside down. It's not what I do. Now we've got that in, we're going to come through here, try to figure out exactly where this needs to sit on the servo, get the splines lined up where it is straight. It's going to be about there. And get this servo horn on about as straight as we can. And that actually looks pretty good there. So then you'll come back with your servo horn screw, your set screw. See if we can get it in here with this axle on here still. It's all about maneuvering things out of your way so that you can do what you need to do. Get that tightened down. It's got the factory blue Loctite on it. You could come back and add more if you wanted to. This panhard bar apparently wants to be a pain today, so we are going to remove it here. Remember, put the panhard bar back on before you set your steering servo and you won't have the same issue I do. But hey, we're all here to learn, so you learn as you go. But we started this RC channel because every time we started doing upgrades and modifications, we could never find any tutorials on or anything, so we just kind of started taking cars apart and figuring it out. And then one day we just said, you know what, let's help the other hobbyists and possible beginners, or even anybody that just can't figure out how to do something. We'll figure it out and then we'll post it and say, hey, check this out. Alright, so you got your panhard bar back on, drag link, the screw, don't forget to tighten that for your tie rod. Everything looks to be back in working order. So now we're going to flip the truck back over. Hope you can see that. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to flip the truck back over, and we are going to come in here with the shocks and get them back in their spot. Start this screw up here. Can't really get the camera to show the inside here, but basically watch how you take the shock off and it goes back on similar, just in reverse. They've got the same sleeves in them, little ball sleeves that the control arms do, and just about everything else. Alright, so once you get this screw back in on the front shock, we're going to come back over here and do the same thing. It's not particularly easy when you've got all these fenders in the way. So what I like to do is grab just a small pick type tool to get in here and push this little thingy back in. Alright, so once you get this shock in, then come back in, we're going to pop these wheels back on. Alright, turn this back on, turn the receiver on, got steering, got a motor that's making a little funky noise. What do you expect? Seems to be working just fine. I don't know why it's making that funky noise, we'll get into that later. It's a different video for a different time. Wheels tend to be looking pretty straight to me, so we're gonna get this thing cleaned up. We'll get this wire put all back in and get this all put back together. So, all right guys, so we've got the body back on, got it all put back together. Everything is working just fine. It's definitely a lot faster than the factory. So a lot quieter, so we'll see how it goes. And again, that was the Savix 2209 something, submarine. We're gonna put this thing in the water eventually, so stay tuned. We've got more coming. We're gonna do the spool kits in the front and rear diffs, which eliminates the switch for locking differentials, because we're gonna keep it locked. This is gonna be a good truck here once we get finished with it. So follow the series of this K10. We're gonna start ripping things out left and right and replacing them with better more suitable for the way I will be driving this. Remember to like and subscribe, hit the bell notification so you get notified whenever we post videos, and stay tuned.